Well, okay. Hello again. It's a borrowed camera. The hope is that this time audio and video might stay in sync, and maybe we'll be able to stay in color instead of having to grayscale because everything came out so bad. But this has a built-in microphone, so the sound is probably going to be worse even if it is in sync, and I'm sorry. But I wanted to get on to round 2 in my personal war on brainwashing, and yes, I'm still me, the medication of choice for my condition. And there are reasons I say that. Well, I'll get into them later, not today. Because right now, what I want to do is go back and add some emphasis that I overlooked. I got a little, I think, too focused on just how stupid it is to legislate that drivers have to be in far worse shape to drive because you're denying them their fixes because of what I take to be the results of this mass brainwashing. And remember, or realize, brainwashing isn't only what happens in North Korean prison camps in the 50s and gets turned into really good novels and pretty good movies. It has to do with being convinced, strongly convinced, because of propaganda and salesmanship, according to one dictionary definition. And I would say by repeated proofs by strong assertion. And in the whole arena of picking on Nico Parias, I think it's quite reasonable. I believe it quite strongly, although I don't believe I can prove it the way I think I actually proved that it's really dumb to ban smoking by drivers of cars, with or without kids in them. But I think that it's very, very plausible to believe the reason why the whole bias started was because starting in around 1598 or whenever it was that Raleigh brought tobacco back to the old world, the Puritans didn't like it because people who use tobacco enjoyed it. And to Puritans, there should be no pleasure without punishment unless it's pleasure in godly works. And the the best evidence I've found is a very, very learned article by an Australian statistician, professor of statistics, called Peter Finch, as I recall. And he attributes what he finds to be the very offensive, distorted use of statistics in an attempt, he doesn't use the word, I will, to brainwash the public, is based, in his view, and I agree with him, on a 1974 white paper by a Canadian Minister of Health called Marc Lalonde. And Chapter 9 of his paper, I've looked at the paper, it makes me sick, but Chapter 9 is called, get yourself ready for this, Science versus Health. Isn't that wonderful? Science versus Health. And his very first paragraph says, look, we know that if we're scrupulous and scientific, science can't prove these things. If we're scrupulous, we just say there's a likelihood, blah, blah, blah. But on balance, we know it's bad, and so therefore we should, he doesn't do it in so many words, but he basically is saying we should put the worst possible face on it. And what I find tremendously offensive is he concludes that paragraph with a quotation from 1 Corinthians, in other words, the Bible. And good heavens, the counter here, I'm going to be cutting a minute, but still, I'm going to stop right about here and just ask you to think about the fact that if people who start out thinking smoking is a vice then get themselves in positions of power or media access and get vast numbers of people to go along with that, based on what I will try and show next time and the time after and the time after, is trumped up evidence, this is not fair play, and it's not even good public health, because don't forget, France and Japan, third and first in average life expectancies. So I still say it can't be as bad as it's cracked up to be, where it is either primary or secondary smoke. All right, cheers.